to the Week 4 episode of Toss in the Pigskin. As always, I'm your host, Nate Smith. If you're new to the channel, welcome. And if you're returning, welcome back. As always, we got a terrific show on deck for you here for this Week 4 episode. We'll break down what happened Week 3 against the spread. We got 3 fresh new picks for you. And we're joined by special guest, Matt Lively, host of the podcast, the Bogey Broadcasters. Let's get to it. All right, we'll start with our recap for Week 3 against the spread. Pick number 1, we had the Rams money line. They were on the road at the Buffalo Bills. Tough pill to swallow, in my opinion, on this one. Bills ended up winning the game, but not without a little bit of controversy. Buffalo had the rock with about 30 seconds to go. It was 4th down. They were on about the Rams' 10-yard line. Got bailed out, in my opinion, by a pass interference call that looked like BS to most people watching. However, it is what it is. The Bills went on to punch it in with about 15 seconds left and win the game. So that was a loss. Second pick we had was Cardinals minus 5.5. They were at home against the Lions. This one was pretty much dead from the start. Cardinals offense, and specifically Kyler Murray, did not show up to play in this one. But it's not all his fault. I don't think Cliff Kingsbury called the best game here. They were not able to get in a rhythm. But it doesn't help when Kyler throws 3 picks. Cards defense did their job, only gave up 26 points to a talented Detroit offense. Matt Prater hit one at the buzzer. Lions actually won this game straight up. So we started the day 0-2. Going into Sunday Night Football, we had Packers +3 at the Saints. As I predicted, it was pretty back and forth the entire game. Turning point came early in the fourth quarter. Gimmick quarterback Taysom Hill fumbled the rock. Packers recovered, and pretty much that was the ending point, if you will, for the Saints' hopes at winning this game. Packers were able to then go on and score, and they took a 10-point lead with 2 minutes left, which was just too much for the Saints to overcome. So not only did Packers cover the +3, they also covered the money line, if anybody out there took that as well. But it is a new week. We are on to week number 4. After going 1-2 last week, that pushes our season total to 4-5. Looking to improve once again to week number 4. Pick number 1, Jaguars +3 at the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, the Jaguars have a lot of extra rest. They played on Thursday night last week. Extra rest, extra preparation for a Cincinnati team that just flat out isn't good. Jaguars offensively, despite the bad showing last week, are still really talented. They are 3rd in third down conversion rate and 2nd in red zone touchdown rate. This Cincy defense will struggle. Couple more things. Jaguars' offensive line is better than you think, and Cincinnati's offensive line, it might be the worst in the league. They are going to struggle against this Jaguars defense. Pick number 2, going back to the Cardinals, baby. They screwed us last week, but I believe in them. Cardinals -3.5 at Carolina. This Carolina defense is my main reason for this pick. They are 2nd to last in third down defense against this Kyler Murray-led offense with DeAndre Hopkins, Kenyon Drake, and Larry Fitzgerald. That's just not going to get it done. Cliff Kingsbury rebounds as a play caller. I wouldn't be surprised if the Cardinals put up close to 40 points in this one. Just too much youth and inexperience on that Carolina defense. They're starting 3 rookies. And last but not least, pick number 3, Falcons versus the Green Bay Packers -7.5. I know it's a bit of a big number, but give me the Packers. In back-to-back weeks, the Atlanta Falcons have blown a 99% win probability. They did it twice, 2 separate times. They're just broken. Dan Quinn's on his way out. The morale of this team is shattered. And the Packers last week against a good Saints team almost put up their 3rd 40-burger of the season, just shy at 37 points. There's no way they don't top 40 against this Atlanta defense, who's dealing with injuries to both of their starting safeties. Rodgers rolls. He's 3rd in passer rating. I don't care if it's a big number. Packers by at least 10.
And with that, I'm joined by my friend and also a new co-host of the new sports podcast, the Bogey Broadcasters. It's hosted by him and our other friend, Braden Bell. You can find that on Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts, whether that's Apple or I believe Google, right? I think.
Yeah,
Either way,
Google, iHeartRadio, wherever.
iHeartRadio, wherever you get your podcasts. I'll be sure to link it in the description below. Once again, Matt Lively is joining me here. Okay, Matt, we're here to break down. This is Wednesday night, but we're heading into week 4 in the NFL. almost at the quarter mark of the season, which is truly wild to think about considering how slow some parts of 2020 have gone. But here we are. So we'll get right into it. Who impressed you the most in week number 3?
Yeah, I think it's the guy that has impressed everyone the most, and it's Russell Wilson. This is a quarterback who has always been one of the top in the league, but I don't think has gotten the credit he deserves. And now with all this let Russ cook, he's exploding. They're finally using his full range of talents against Dallas in week 3, which is a game that I know that you watched pretty heavily.
I got the shirt on, the 21 Savage.
yeah. So I know that you watched that quite a bit.
Yeah.
I mean, he torched you guys is the best way to put it. Over 300 yards passing, 5 touchdowns. The one thing I was thinking of today when I was kind of prepping for this show is that he has had so many big plays this year, and that's because he's the most accurate quarterback on throws over 10 yards. He's completing 75% of his passes on throws that go more than 10 yards. So Russell Wilson has stood out as the guy that has impressed me, and I think almost everybody the most so far in 2020.
I'm with you, and I've seen some other people already talk about how Patrick Mahomes is the front runner of the MVP race, but I don't know how you can say that, honestly. Like, if you've really watched the Seahawks through the first 3 weeks, he hasn't played the best defenses, but anytime you go up against a Bill Belichick Patriots defense, I mean, they're still a top 10 defense in the league. Now, obviously, Cowboys secondary has got bigger holes in the Grand Canyon, but he went out there and he did what he did, and he's been doing it every week. I don't have the exact stat with me, but I saw like his touchdown passes compared to incompletions. Like there's not that much of a gap in between those.
It's crazy.
Which is just ridiculous to think about. So yeah, I'm with you. I'm gonna have to agree. And for me, he's the front runner MVP. And on these national shows such as First Take and things like that, I really don't understand why he's not getting more traction. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. But
yeah, I agree with you.
Let's move on to teams as a whole now. So through 3 weeks, there are 8 teams in the NFL who have yet to win a game. So defeated, in other words. Quickly, I'll go through the list. Broncos, Jets, Bengals, Vikings, Texans, Giants, Eagles, and the Falcons. For you, of those squads, who has the best chance to turn things around? And statistically speaking, a lot of these teams, if any, probably won't make the playoffs, but who has a chance to sort of get maybe to that 500 mark and sort of figure it out?
Yeah, so I have one team that I think will not only turn around, but actually can make the playoffs, and it's the Houston Texans. Okay. This is a team, they faced the Baltimore Ravens, they faced the Kansas City Chiefs, they have faced the Pittsburgh Steelers. Those are 3 top 10 defenses. Add that in with the fact that Bill O'Brien traded away the top wide receiver in the game right now. Deshaun Watson doesn't have much to work with. He's faced these really good defenses. His defense, conversely, is 23rd in the league. I counted up really quickly. This is who they've got left on the schedule, and I think they can get 10 games out of it. I think they can get 2 from the Colts, 2 from the Jags, a win against the Bears, Lions, Titans, Browns, and Bengals. So I think they have 10 wins left on their schedule, and that's a division that isn't very strong to begin with. So I think considering those are easier games, they could probably sneak into the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, as a football fan, you do got to feel for Deshaun Watson a little bit. Just gets no help from his coaching staff, especially his head coach and GM, which is just the weird dynamic in and of itself. Yeah, trade away Hopkins, and as you mentioned, the defense doesn't help him out at all either. And really, the offensive line, they're at their 2 tackle spots, they're pretty good. Laramie Tunsil and Titus Howard are both very good players, but as an entirety on the offensive line, it's really probably a below-average group. Okay, moving on to teams on the other side of the spectrum. We're going to talk undefeated teams. There are 7 of those as of this point. That's the Bears, Steelers, Titans, Seahawks, Chiefs, Bills, and Packers. So I got 2 sets of questions for this crew. The first one, though, is who is the biggest imposter of this group? Who's the team that is not like the others?
They stick out like a sore thumb. If you had told me that the Bears would be 3-0 heading into week 4, I wouldn't have believed you.
Yeah.
This is a team that's beaten the Falcons, the Lions, and the Giants. 3 bad teams, 3 teams who aren't over 500, and they beat each of those teams by just exactly 4 points. So there's a lot of confidence going into that. You could say, hey, Nick Foles is now the quarterback, but are we really going to put the entire weight of a season on a team on Nick Foles? I don't think so. although that division really looks like the Packers might be the only good team in it, I still don't trust the Bears to get out of the NFC with a playoff spot. So I would go with them solely because Nick Foles can't do this all on his own, and that's what it looks like it'll be.
I'm with you, and I also think moving forward, that right now, I agree, the NFC North is not great, but they still got to play the Lions again, and the Vikings, although they've started defeated as well, they can beat the Bears. It's not like you mentioned, it's not like the Bears are this team with no holes. And yeah, I'm really interested to see how the turn to Foles ends up turning out, 5-6 games down the line here, because I'm actually I can't believe they did it that early, because Trubisky really, through the first 2 games, was pretty good. And it seemed like, I guess, bringing Foles over in the offseason, giving him all that money, it was a short leash to begin with, but just kind of a weird dynamic there.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
Okay. Now, the second question I have for that group is, of those undefeated teams, it's almost impossible to run the entire table and remain undefeated the whole year. So I'm not going to say anybody will do that. But of the undefeated teams right now, to you, who's the Super Bowl favorite out of that group?
It hurts me to say this just because I don't believe that a team can go back-to-back, but it's the Kansas City Chiefs. They've manhandled 2 of the better teams that we saw in the AFC last year, the Houston Texans and the Baltimore Ravens. For whatever reason, they struggled with the Chargers, and that might have been because you had Herbert starting literally seconds before that game. They did not game plan for him. But I think it's the Chiefs. When you have Patrick Mahomes, who is the best quarterback in the league, better than Lamar Jackson in my opinion, he finds ways to win games. Although the defense isn't as good, when your offense is putting up close to 35, 40 points a game, you don't have to worry that much about it. We're reminded why they are the best team in the league when they played Monday night against the Ravens. They have one of the best coaches in the league in Andy Reid. So right now I would say it's the Chiefs. Right behind them, maybe the Seahawks.
Yeah, I'm with you. I would actually love to see a Chiefs-Seahawks Super Bowl. That would be fantastic. But I will say, regardless of how well Russell Wilson is playing, that Seattle defense really concerns me. It's not a good unit at all. They can't rush the passer. They don't have a good secondary in the slightest. One thing I will say about that Chiefs defense, I know you mentioned it, is they have Baltimore figured out. Every time they have played recently, it has not gone well for that Baltimore offense, who seemingly moves the ball at ease against everybody else. And throughout that playoff run last year, that KC defense stood tall time and time again. And again, like you mentioned, when you got Big Daddy Mahomes back there, all you got to do is get a few key stops a game, get off the field on third down more than not, and you got a better shot than most people to go ahead and win that game. Okay, last thing I got for you here, because time is running out on us. Heading into week 4, I asked Mr. Lively to come up with one extra bonus bet for the show. What do you got for us?
So my lock of the week is Ravens minus 13 against the Washington football
Really?
team.
Okay.
Here's why. When you get blown out like you do on prime time against a team that is becoming your rival, you come out really angry the next week. Washington's a bad football team. They've lost to the Cardinals by 14 points. They just lost to the Browns by 14 points and to the Cardinals by 15 points. And they couldn't handle Kyler Murray, so I don't know how they're going to handle Lamar Jackson. The Ravens defense is really good. They blitz a lot. Dwayne Haskins isn't going to be able to handle that. So I think that 13 mark, it might look big, but I think they easily win that game like 30-15, 30-10, a score like that.
I personally will be avoiding that game this week, but I love your reasoning, and hopefully the viewers will lock that in as a fourth bet. I think you're right. I mean, if I had to take it, I would take that side. No way in hell I'm taking Washington, I'll say that much. Yeah, I do not want to play an angry Baltimore team led by Lamar Jackson.
No.
I'm good. Once again, this was Matt Lively. Thank you for joining us here at Tossing the Pigskin. Once again, you can find Lively's podcast anywhere you listen to your podcast, and it's called the Bogey Broadcasters. Thanks for joining us, Matt. We'll have to do it again sometime soon.
It's been fun, man. Thanks a lot.
Hope you all enjoyed the episode. As always, like and subscribe, and we'll see you next week.